Are you a creative who's also a spiritual seeker, a mystic? Maybe you're desiring to get more intuitive downloads where you can trust them and act on them. Or maybe you want to be a healer where you actually can heal people, transform them, transform their lives and them. Or maybe you want to connect with your spirit guides like I do, where you can get their higher guidance, especially when you really need it, when you're having that, maybe that point where you're having a little bit of struggle or challenge, where you've fallen into some fear, worry. That higher guidance can really get you back into that expansive growth. You know, whatever it is that you're wanting, whether it's intuitive downloads or connection to your spirit guides or being a healer, Archangel Gabriel wants to help you with that. Now, Archangel Gabriel came and tapped me on my shoulder this morning and said, we want you to talk about creativity. Creativity as a path to awakening. Or if you prefer the word enlightenment, a path to enlightenment. So I'm going to actually invoke their presence and do a little ritual with the bell and a ghee lamp. And then I'm going to share with you the intuitive message they have for me, that they've kind of put a little bit of it into my consciousness this morning, but they have more to say. And then what will happen is, as at a certain point, they're going to tell me to start painting on them. And then I'm going to go paint. And as I paint, more usually comes through. In fact, if you're tuning in, it means you must need to hear this message from Archangel Gabriel or the Flying Horse, because both of these spirit guides are here once we invoke them in. And they often will have me let somebody ask questions. So if you're on live, you can ask questions. Obviously, you have to be live to do this. If you're seeing this in the recording, you know, at some future date, please feel free to subscribe, you know, so that you can, for future, know about it. And that way you can be on for the live if they by chance are open to giving intuitive messages. All right. So let's get going. All right. Because this is all about creating sacred space. See, I'm Deepa Lou. I call myself the creative mystic, and I create this sacred space in my art studio. But it's not just about creating the sacred space here in my art studio, but also creating it in your space. Now, if you've tuned in before, you've heard me say this, but this is about, yes, always remembering. The spirit guides have me repeat things, not because just to repeat, but because we need repetition on the spiritual journey of growing spiritually. We have to keep asking ourselves, am I having this sacred space? And it's not just in my home or wherever you are right now, but also the sacred space within yourself. You know, that sacred space of getting those intuitive downloads, feeling that inner peace or that joy, or having that unconditional love for other people. You know, those are moments where we flux in and out of them. And so when we're out of them, we have to like become aware to flux back in, or I should say consciously make an effort to come back in. All right. So they wanted me to kind of reiterate that and actually really share with you, when you hear the repetition of something that they're giving guidance on that they may have said once before, or Deepa is saying again, that you ask yourself, what deeper understanding am I supposed to get from this? Or am I actually applying this in my life? And if the answer is no, how can I apply it more deeply? Because that's what it's all about, is how can you apply the spiritual truths, the intuitive guidance that you receive more effectively in your life, so that you can have the expansion of growth spiritually, expansion of development in your spiritual gifts that can come to you. Because I will tell you, no matter how old you are, you can discover new spiritual gifts. It happened for me when I started painting. Being a non-visual person, all of a sudden I became visual when I started to bring the creativity, the spiritual practices together. All right, so let's start by invoking Archangel Gabriel, okay? And when I ring this bell, I want you to say, hello, Archangel Gabriel. Hello, the Flying Horse. And say that hello, invoking them into your space. I'm invoking them into this space here where I am, into my inner space where I am, and into your space in your inner space. So remember, everything is energy, even though we're not in the same physical space, the energetic spiritual space is all one. All right? So let's get going. Hello, Archangel Gabriel. Hello, the flying horse. We invoke thy presence, thy sacred energy into this sacred space, into the sacred space of this room, into our sacred space of this body, mind, and soul. And that whomever is watching this, whether live or in the recording, invokes that sacred space, awakens it within their physical space, their inner space, their physical body, physical mind, soul. And just say thank you, thank you, thank you. And the thank you is knowing that Spirit is with us at all times. Our spirit guides are here with us at all times. All right. And then I'm going to light this ghee lamp. And if you watch this, I invite you to light a candle, a ghee lamp, or something into your space. And if you've got Palo Santo, to use that to help you to clear the energy and invite in the energy. We're going to do that, and then we're going to get to the intuitive message, okay, about creativity. And just know, flame, fire, one of the quickest ways to transform something when used in ritual. Because just think about it as, just even as I burn this Palo Santo, the wood is being transformed into ash, into smoke. I'm going to clean our energy, clean the energy of the palette, the canvas, and invoke the energy of Archangel Gabriel. Invoke the energy of the flying horse, of these spirit guides that are here to bless us and to create this painting, this canvas, this image into a doorway to your higher self, to your higher guidance, to the divine presence that is with us at all times, that we just need to acknowledge and be one with, that this doorway helps us to create that connection, that awakeness in knowing that we are one. All right? I just love that. Oh, love the smell of Palo Santo. Oh, let me give you a little bit. So if you're watching, you can bring it in to your energy and space. And I'm going to Om the canvas. And if you'd like to join me, you can Om the canvas too through energetically. Om. 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 Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvareka Bandhanat Richo Mokshamamritat. Om Om Bhuvaha Om Swaha Om Maha Om Janaha Om Tapaha Om Satyam Om Tatsavitur Vadinyam Bhargo Devasya Dimahi Diyo Yo Na Prachodayat. Om. And Archangel Gabriel wants me to share with you about creativity as a path to awakening. And a lot of people don't think of creativity as a way to become awakened, to become enlightened. And I will admit, they wanted me to share a little bit about my story, that when I started to paint, I did not know it was a path to awakening. And awakening, they want me to clarify with you so that you understand about awakening and enlightenment, is that, as you are on the path of awakening and enlightenment, a lot of people are waiting for that switch to flip, like it's turning on the lights and they immediately come on, and then you're never in the darkness again. You're always in that enlightened state, that awakened state. And what they really want you to understand is that awakened state, that enlightened state, is actually, when you're moving forward in your spiritual growth, it's happening for most people little by little. That the flip of the switch, or what seems like the flip of a switch is what they're telling me. It's like somebody who you think has been they're saying is that been all of a sudden become a superstar, out there as maybe a singer, but yet you don't know they've been plugging along for 10 years doing this. Well, it's kind of similar to that, except the difference is you are making little bits of progress in your awakening that you may not be acknowledging, you may not be noticing. And they're talking about how in that awakening process, in that enlightenment process, you have to start to recognize those little bits of steps of progress that you're making, they're saying. So they really want you to get that first. And first and foremost, you have to start to understand that so that you can understand how creativity is a path to awakening. All right. And so for me, I was a non-visual person who never saw visions. If someone did a guided meditation, I wouldn't see a thing, okay? And it wasn't until I got this intuitive download to start to create, I was actually Yogananda, and I wanted him to be creative where people would feel his energy and his power and feel that the blessings of him. And so I had that desire. And I had a great experience where somebody who I did not know saw it and went, oh my God, when I look at this painting, I can feel his power, his blessings. I feel like, like he's blessing me. And she said, I know that because I'm one of his disciples. And so that is why I went, oh my God, it worked. And it got me down the path of continuing to do that, to combining my spiritual practices, of connecting and being in oneness as best I could in creating these portals, these guides. So the spirit guides that are created, I look at it as they're flowing through me, telling me or guiding me where to paint, what to do, what the next step is to do. And obviously I have to do it and everything, but I'm like being receptive. All right. So what Archangel Gabriel wants you to understand about creativity as a path to awakening is that it helps speed up the process of awakening. Because when you do, they're saying when you do the process of painting and invoking the presence of higher power, whatever you call that, whether it be God, an angel, a fairy, some kind of spiritual being, okay, that comes in to guide you in doing something that you want to bring to the world that's going to help uplift the world, because they're talking about doing creativity that helps uplift the world. And that's an important part of creativity as a path to awakening. I did not know they were going to say that. So, but yeah, it's about creating something that uplifts the world. Now, when they say the world, it could be uplifts one person, because that's part of the world. We're all one, and they want you to get that. You don't have to sit there and say like, okay, I need to create a mural that's the size of a huge building that, millions and millions and millions and millions of people are going to see it. It could be like, they're saying like what Deepa does. She creates these spirit guide portals, and the people who resonate with it see it through different talks that she does, maybe happen to find it on the internet through her website, things like that. So it's going out and blessing people. And when they resonate with it, they buy a G Clay or they buy their own personal spirit guide portal, because she can tune into your energy and see your spirit guide. So they're saying that like you want to look at it, but it's like you want to get that. They're telling me to share with you, like my whole intention and you got to realize intention is important on the creativity path as a path to awakening. Okay. They're telling me that's important. Your intention when you're creating, the intention of being one with spirit is very important. The intention of what you want this thing that you're creating to do in the world? Like, what positive upliftment are you trying to bring? Is it helping people save time? Is it helping them maybe see the world in a different way? Is it maybe just giving off the positive energy to bless them? So, for instance, they're asking me to share with you, like with my spirit guide portals, my whole intention is to create them so that I want them to be alive in the sense of they will help the viewer of them to feel more uplifted, but also to maybe learn how to connect with it, because everything is energy, everything is spirit, okay? And have that deeper connection with that particular spirit guide so they can receive that higher guidance. So I'm wanting to help uplift each person who sees a spirit guide portal, uplift them in their consciousness to know that they're never alone, that there's always spirit with them, a spirit guide with them, okay? To know that they have access to those intuitive downloads. It's just a matter of how do you learn how to do it and start to understand the language they're speaking to you, okay? So that's my intention. It was my intention with painting Yogananda. It was my intention with painting Archangel Gabriel. I mean, not Archangel Gabriel, Our Lady of Guadalupe. And so each of those times, that intention, then when I had those intentions of connecting with higher power, with spirit, with the intention of creating a blessing in the world, that as I'm creating them, I'm in that divine flow. And so what Archangel Gabriel is wanting you to understand is when you consciously have that intention to create with spirit, it starts to transform you. And then as whatever you're feeling and thinking, as you get transformed into that higher consciousness, it's being infused into whatever you're creating. So for me, it's getting infused into this portal. Now you might make something different, like maybe you like doing macrame, or maybe you do woodwork, or maybe you write stories, but you're infusing your energy, your intention, your consciousness into whatever you're creating. And the more consciously aware you are, because they say awareness on the path of creativity, of when you're in that good place of higher consciousness, or in the judgmental voice of judging your work, that it can help you to actually grow spiritually, start to awaken you more. Because as you're painting, I'll be painting, they want me to use that example. In fact, they're telling me to get started on painting right now. So we're going to go and get started on painting, all right? So, so part of it is when you get that intuitive nudge that I get from them, or that little thing that they're communicating for me to do. And they're wanting me to get you to understand that the intuitive message that you get is not always words in your head, okay? They wanted me to share that with you. Everybody's waiting to get the message that is the text or the email, where it's all written out clearly, and there's no room for misinterpretation. But even in texts and emails, people misinterpret them, but they're looking for that. No room for misinterpretation is what Archangel Gabriel is telling me. And he's saying that there is room for a misinterpretation, and that's about depending on the channel of who is receiving the message. So you're going to receive it and interpret it in the lens that you pick things up by. So that's one of the reasons why they're telling you that it's important to just be aware of each little step of awakening that you're having. So one of the things they want me to share with you is one of them, maybe you're a person that runs around and you do lots of things and you're busy, and you realize you don't even notice when you feel tired, or you never really notice that voice in your head that can go off, that everybody has. And unless you're fully awake and God realized you have a voice that, there's different parts to you and those voices can be speaking to you. And part of awakening is starting to understand that, I'm looking here, there's a comment I didn't even know there was. Oh, okay. I don't know if you're still on here, Cygnus, but thank you for sharing this. I didn't realize you had come on. Yeah. But yeah, hopefully you can come back if you had to fall off. But what was I saying? Okay. I didn't realize there was a comment. But as you're in that path of awakening, you want to acknowledge those small steps, okay? So if you're a person that doesn't ever hear that voice, then all of a sudden you start to notice like, oh, I see that voice criticizing myself. Now that's actually a sign that you're awakening. If you never saw it before, but now you're recognizing, I shouldn't say saw it because you can't see it, but you never recognized that voice was going on, then all of a sudden that's a sign that, oh, you're awakening because you're catching that voice now. Because some people keep themselves so busy, they don't recognize or even notice when that voice is going on. And they just want to stay busy, busy, busy because they don't ever want to actually have to hear that voice. Because often for most people, that voice doesn't necessarily say positive things. Like when that voice can go off for me sometimes, it's the negative voice of criticism because I grew up in an environment with a lot of criticism. So if you grew up in a home with a lot of criticism, you may be having that same voice. And so, but the path of awakening, when you notice that voice is going off, you're able to go, there's that voice again. And you actually can stop it. You stop, thank you for sharing, and you move on. Okay, so that's just one thing they wanted me to share with you, how there's this there's different signs, and there's many more than I can share with you in this time period with you, but they're just saying to start to pay attention to what you notice, what you're noticing, because if you start to notice things you didn't notice before, that's a sign that you're awakening. So how does creativity actually help you? How is it a path to awakening? And the first part, I think I said earlier, but they're wanting me to repeat it, is about getting that connection, that divine connection. And so use the power of prayer to do that connection. Power of ritual to do that connection. So as you're creating, the other thing, besides just you make that conscious intention that I talked about, it's also about your awareness of what is your inner voice when you're creating. Because when you're creating, and especially if you're creating anything, is that judgmental voice coming up? Because if the judgmental voice is coming up and you're like saying, this looks ugly, I'm doing a bad job, anything like that, obviously that's not your higher self. That's not spirit. That's what? Your ego, right? And that ego is trying to stop you from moving forward on the spiritual growth that you can make. So when you catch it, and if you observe yourself, when I started creating the spirit guides, and it can still happen, I would catch myself like when I would get to a certain place of the spirit guide would start looking pretty good. It wouldn't feel complete, but it was looking pretty good. Now, if you're a painter, you may already know that there's a point where when you look at the painting and it feels done. My wife always asks, so how do you know when the painting's done? I said, it just feels like it. She goes, what do you mean feels like it? I said, yeah, I know, I look at it and it feels like it's done. And if it doesn't feel that way, I just keep tuning in to the spirit guides and asking them what they want me to do. And then when I get that feeling, I know it's that feeling is them communicating to me that, okay, this spirit guide portal, it's complete. Okay. You can start another one. Because the thing about the spirit guides is they come to me quite often, giving me they give me more visions than I actually can keep up with to do. So if you want to start using creativity as a path to awakening for you, what they're recommending is that you pick a path of creativity, something that you actually love to do, and you start to invite in spirit. So you can adapt some of the rituals that I have of what I do into what you do. So I can't give you a specific thing because I don't know what your path of creativity is, but if you come on live at some point and you ask, I'm sure the spirit guides would give you an answer. Or I'm going to be starting a membership sometime here in the near future. I'm working on the details now. I'm hoping it can get launched in December, but there's a lot more details than I have anticipated. Let's see. Hi, Leah. Thanks for showing up for a little bit. Yeah. If you have any questions, feel free. I'm going to be so it's all about how do you actually take what you love doing and then bring in higher power, spirit. All right. So I got guided earlier today to actually put a second layer on the outer part because I haven't done any of that. I've just been working on one of the things about when you paint is I work on it in layers as I start with doing the first layer, just laying paint down and then following what I get guided to do. And then I ask and tune in. And today I was like, the spirit guys go, oh, you need to put another layer on the background because things are not thick enough yet. So that's what I got to do today, which is kind of fun because when you get to the point where my spirit guide is right now, it's fine detail. And sometimes it's fun to just do something where it's not a lot of detail, which is what this is. So they're talking about creativity as a path to awakening in that you want to pick something you want to do that you love doing. And they're really emphasizing that word love, that you love doing. So it doesn't have to be painting. Now they're saying if you're open to painting, they're highly recommend you do it. You don't have to create spirit guides like Deepa. They're saying that you can just go, well, I want to paint and I want to start painting and connecting with spirit. And they're saying actually this would be really good for everybody to do. They're telling me that even if you know this isn't necessarily the thing you love to do at this point, they're saying this would be a great practice to get some paints. They're saying that either oil paints. I paint with oil paints. They're saying oil paints or acrylics. Now, the great thing about oil paints, I haven't used acrylics a lot, but oil paints are really forgiving. And what they're saying is they want you to pick a forgiving medium. So they're not recommending watercolor because they're saying watercolor is not forgiving. And I've done some watercolor. So I want you to know that it's not forgiving. You have to plan everything out. And when you're actually starting to paint, where you're communing with spirit to tune in, like I get a vision and then I start to paint. But I don't always plan it all out. Now, on Archangel Gabriel, if you've been here since the beginning of this creation, when I started doing it, you saw that I drew it on the canvas, of which I do that sometimes. Especially if it's like something like an angel and the horse, because I want to have a drawing down. But even though the drawing's there, when I first started doing it, this was not here, and I thought it was going to be like a tunnel effect. And then I was painting, and all of a sudden I got that I was supposed to take the yellow and put it around there, the wings more and stuff. So you stay open to being receptive. You don't want to like get fixated on it has to be this way and that way and look this way, because the spirit is always speaking to you. And so you have to be willing to do something different than maybe the original vision or the original guidance. And you have to know enough to know is it time to do something a little different? You know, because one of the things they're saying about awakening is not stagnant. Awakening is about being, they're saying the word flexible to me. They're saying awakening is about being flexible. Flexible, flexible, flexible. So they're kind of saying about like if you go into life, you know, and you're too rigid, what happens? Life kind of gets hard, doesn't it? Because you're being too rigid. And what's the big one constant in life? Change, right? Isn't that true? It's change, right? Change is always happening. Change, change, change. And so you have to be willing to be flexible. And one of the things they're saying on the creativity as a path to enlightenment, why you have to, or awakening, is that you're always changing. The spiritual laws don't change. They're always the same. The truths are always the same. But the world is, the physical world, which they often is called the land of delusion, is always changing. But most importantly, you're changing. You're coming to a different spiritual place than you were before. So, you know, it's not going to necessarily be the same as it was before, because you're different. And so they're wanting you to get that you have to be willing to adapt on the path of awakening. So as you find creativity and how you know you're making some progress on the path of awakening, when you're growing spiritually, is to notice that you get more flexible. Or they're saying the word more at ease with change. I'm really using that, saying more at ease with change. With, you know, how like when life happens and something doesn't go the way you want it to, like you get more willing to adapt to that. Where it doesn't faze you, it doesn't upset you when things don't actually go the way you want them to, because you start to know, the more awakened you are, the more developed you're getting on the path of awakening, they're saying, is that you start to truly understand the spiritual truth that everything, and they're saying everything, they're saying it like loud to me, is happening for the betterment of your life. And if you've been on the manifestation world of learning, you know, people say that all the time, but the question becomes, do you actually believe it? Do you actually know it? because if you get upset when something doesn't go that way you want it to, it means you aren't actually believing it completely. And they don't want you to feel bad. It's about just awareness to know where you are on the spiritual journey. So that's what they're saying, is that the creativity is so important, because when you start to realize, they're saying the reason why they want you to try some kind of oil painting, because it's a forgiving medium, is they're saying that even though you might not think like that you can change the past, or that you can change things where on the physical plane, they said when you actually understand the truth that everything is energy, you start to know that, oh, wait a minute, I can change this. Now, you're not going to go back and change what you think is the past, but you can change like what's happening in your life. And there's also, like when you're really a master, they actually can go in and change all kinds of things. But we're just talking about how do we help you on the beginning of your path of awakening is what they're wanting to share. So they're saying if you actually start to oil paint, what you start to learn is that in oil painting, because it's a forgiving medium, and when I say it's forgiving, what I mean by that is that if you have something that you make a mistake, like one time, even when I was starting this portal, I dropped my paintbrush and plopped it on the foot, and it made a big mark. Well, I just covered it up, because forgiving medium. If you did that with watercolors, you have to figure out how to change the painting, because you can't actually get it up unless you're quick to get a wet cloth and suck it up before it stains the paper, actually seeps into the paper, of which I've never been able to get to do when I've tried watercolor. I'm not good at watercolor at all, but it doesn't mean I haven't had some time. I've played with it. I say play around with it, because I'm not good at doing it. Oh, that looks actually pretty good. So when you actually start to learn oil paint, you realize, oh, wait a minute, I can just cover this up. I can do something different. So you start to go, oh, wait, well, if that can happen in the oil painting, and you're using this as creativity as a path to awakening, you start to go, maybe that's possible in my life. Like I can do something like that and make something change, even though I've been programmed to believe that like once it's done on the physical plane, that's the way it is. But there are many stories of people saying that they've been able to change things. So it's kind of fun to get to paint a little bit more bigger spots. I've been doing a lot of this fine detail on this painting, because I've just been painting it only when I am here on this live. Archangel Gabriel told me to only do it when I'm here on the YouTube live. So that's what I've been doing. So I only paint on it once a week. So So the flying horse is now coming through and telling me that when you're on this path of awakening, you also want to look at and realize that you don't have to do this alone. In fact, they're making that a big point is they don't, in fact, they say to try to do it alone for most people, that's too overwhelming for them, that they need to get the support they need. Now they're saying one of the biggest supports that you need to welcome in is spirit. You can welcome in spirit through the spirit guides. You can welcome them in through the angels or the fairies. And now for me, a spirit guide and an angel is a spirit guide. Fairies are spirit guides. But for some people, spirit guides are, like an animal or something. And so there's no, sometimes for some people, a spirit that's helping them is a deceased loved one. And so that, I don't know if that's true for you, but that could be. So you want to kind of tune in to see like what is it for you. Excuse me. I ate something earlier that I was made me that I'm allergic to, so it's made me sneeze more and have my sinuses draining more. So I apologize if I'm sniffling. So one of the things, when you see me step out of the frame, it's because I'm got to step back. One of the things about when you oil paint, you have to step back to get perspective. And when they're talking about creativity as a path to awakening, you sometimes have to take a step back to get perspective. So in your life, when you're looking at the path of awakening, it's about that self-reflection time of looking at yourself and getting really honest of where you are. And not just where you are spiritually, but where you are in your life. Like, are you happy with things with the way they are? Or are you just kind of putting up with things? Because often, we get in such a habit of just putting up with something that we don't even know that we're not being true to ourselves. And they're saying that part of the path of awakening is stepping into that higher self of what your purpose is, of why you're here on the planet, of, what are you really here to be, do, and have? And if you've been here at all, Archangel Michael and the flying horse are all about miracles are possible. They're coming here with that blessing of miracles are possible. And they want you to understand that your miracle is here. That anything that you haven't thought was possible is actually possible. They want to bless you with that consciousness. And they're reiterating that to me right now, how important this is. That if whoever finds this in the recording or pops on live, that whatever you're desiring is possible. And that you don't have to know the how right now. It's just about owning what in your life isn't quite where you want it to be. And start to be in the idea that, well, maybe I don't know the how, but Spirit does know the how. And that I'm open to the possibility of what I really desire is here. So they're asking you to kind of just be in the energy of, wait, miracles are possible. Miracles are here. And how is God's job? It's not my job to have to figure out all the how. My job is to own what I desire, start to maybe just be in possibility around it. But not think that I have to be, they're using the word stuck with something that's not really working for me. So they're wanting you to really think about what is and isn't working for you, is what they're saying. And they're saying if you don't, maybe you know something's not working for you, but you don't know what it is that you need or want or desire so that that will work. They're saying that's okay. You just need to be aware that something's not working and go, I am open to receiving the guidance of what I can do or what I can receive, they're saying, because they're saying it's not always about you doing. They're saying that sometimes it's about receiving. Like, is there something that you haven't been willing to receive because problems that exist within our lives only exist because there's something we've been unwilling to let go of or been unwilling to receive. Now, a receive could be intuitive download. Receive could be somebody wants to help you or give you something that you haven't been willing to accept. Receive could be seeing life in a different way. You know, it could be a consciousness, like receiving a new belief. That's what they're saying, is it could be receiving not just something somebody wants to give you, but maybe something the spirit guides are trying to bring to you. Because they're always trying to help you. Our higher power is always trying to help us, always bringing us to what can give us more growth, give us more abundance. So, pretty good. So the other thing they're saying too is if you're seeing this, well, you must have some desire to grow spiritually, and you must have some desire to be creative. And so they're asking you to be willing to like be open to some new form of creativity. Or they're saying, or possibly it's an old form that you've been too afraid to kind of reconnect with. Right? Be open they're saying change, something being different than it is now, but change in a good way. Because they're saying that change is actually always good, but we don't think it is because we're not believing everything is happening for the benefit of our life. So they're asking you to be willing to go, okay, what change have I been resisting that maybe will turn out to the best thing ever? And they're asking me to share with you something that happened to me many, many years ago. It was when I was in my 20s and wanting to buy a house. And I thought doing a marketing job was going to get me that house. And I kept getting, like, spirit kept trying to talk to me through other people. And they want you to understand that spirit often comes through to you through other people. That I was supposed to, like, I was unwilling to receive the idea that I was supposed to go into outside sales so I could get my house before I was 30. And so spirit kept trying to lead me there and finally laid me off from my job, because I wouldn't like go take the leap with having the job because I had a steady paycheck and I was afraid and wanted that steady paycheck. So like to look at that, like, is there something where you're not being willing to receive, that you're getting some guidance that maybe you're supposed to do this differently? And you've just been too afraid because they're saying that we all get into what feels comfortable. And sometimes what felt comfortable becomes uncomfortable, but it's so familiar that we won't let it go. And that familiarity often keeps us caught in doing and staying somewhere that we really need to let go of and then receive the new that's coming in. So they're saying that that's actually the doorway to awakening, when you can let yourself go, you know what, even though I'm afraid, I really feel like this keeps coming up in my sphere. I'm going to let myself do it. I'm going to at least investigate it, even if you don't know the how. Because just the act of investigating can sometimes awaken something. So when you're doing creativity, when the creativity as a path to awakening, it's about that. Also the creativity, when you're doing the acts of creativity, that you can be doing acts of creativity in your life. Like, how can I get creative about looking at this differently? Now, they're wanting you to actually, like I said, paint or something where you can start to watch yourself as you're doing the act. And it's not about becoming a great painter. In fact, they want you to adopt the idea when you're doing creativity as a path to enlightenment, that you have to be willing to suck, to be crummy at something in order to be great at it. So they're wanting you to be willing to do something where you might not be good at it, but you're going to do it because creativity is going to help you grow spiritually when you have that intention. Remember, we talked about that was important, the intention of what uplifting thing this can do for you. So I didn't realize that it's already been 4:25. Getting ready to, So I'm going to get ready to wrap this up. But if there's anybody that has a question, feel free to ask. Be happy to answer it. I don't know if anybody's still on. I know some people have signed in. And if not, I'll be signing off till, let's see what's next week. Oh yeah, we're going to be doing this next week at same time, Thursday, 3:30 p.m. Eastern. Oh, good. I'm Cygnus. I'm not sure. I know that you're signing, but I'm not sure how to say your name. But Cygnus, oh, great. I'm glad that you got back on. I'm glad that things were helpful for you. Cygnus, are you subscribed to my channel? Because if you're not, love to see you subscribe, because then you'll get notified when the next live is happening. And also, like I said, we're going to be working on Archangel Gabriel. So if you can subscribe, if you give me a thumbs up, it all helps. All these are my little creative things I've done that I do this as my main form of creativity, but it doesn't have to be painting. But the spirit guide Archangel Gabriel did ask if you guys would be willing to paint. So, oh, you are subscribed. Oh, great. Thank you so much. All righty. Well, since no questions, we will see you next week in the next live. Have a miraculous week and blessings.